Okay. So, question of the day for you. We're talking about kitchen items. Our Jeopardy category today is kitchen items. Name the brand of extra crunchy potato chips. Lay's? Nope, not Lay's. It's a brand. Actually, it's more of a type of potato chip. Not baked. They're my favorite. They kind of almost taste a little stale. Kettle chips. My favorite. I mean, if it ain't a kettle chip. All right, we can even eat the whole thing, but to be honest with you, the best, the most underrated chip flavor, in my opinion, sea salt and vinegar.
Yeah.
It's the best. It is. I love it. So I buy it at our house because it's mine, and I don't have to. I mean, it's great. It's absolutely fantastic. So I'm right there with you. And then, have you tried that? And have you dipped it in top the tater?
No. Right,
That's a game changer. That's a game changer. I'm telling you. So anyway, so name the brand of packaged stuffing. Comes in a red box. It's like a buck. It's a Thanksgiving staple. Right next to the cranberries. Stovetop? Stovetop. You never heard of stovetop? Red box? Really? I guarantee you, well, unless you make stuffing the homemade way, guarantee you probably have it. It's actually not bad. And then finally, what Chef Boyardee pasta is named after the utensil you use to eat it? What's that? Fork. Not forkables. I'm going to give it to you. You got the win on it. So, okay. Any business stories, marketing stories, kick the hour off with? Any business stories? Anyone have any good customer experiences, bad customer experiences? We talked about how Bed Bath & Beyond is making kind of a turnaround. They're coming out of, they're doing really well right now. We talked about how COVID has actually helped them because people are investing in their homes now, aren't they? Right? So they're doing well. They're coming out of it. So it's just kind of good. Anyone else? Any good? Nothing? You guys just want to get right to it? Yeah, you're raring to go. Let's go. Let's party, right? Okay. So, all right. So, just a kind of a quick little review, and I'm going to go through this. How are we feeling in terms of kind of chapter 3? I haven't seen you guys really since we started chapter 3 together. I haven't seen you until kind of since we started at day 1. How are we feeling with it? How many of you is it starting to kind of like get a little easier? Feel like it's easier? Is the journal helping a little bit? Right? A couple of things that I just would point out to you. Again, the source document tells us where we can go with this. So what I mean by that is, if I see this 3 here, oops, I know that C3 means I'm writing a what? What's the source document? C means check. So if I'm writing a check, that means that I'm paying cash, right? And if I pay cash, I'm crediting cash. So if I see that C, I know that cash credit, I'm going to be using that column. Right? We good? So we're there again. We're kind of. Is anyone confused on this? Do you want me to slow down and just kind of do this one? Yes? No? Okay. So basically, I'll just quickly go through it. Right? I circle the nouns, underline the verb. Paid cash for insurance. Cash and insurance. Prepaid insurance is an asset. A lot of students like to put insurance expense. That's chapter 6. Chapter 6, chapter 7, we start recording. You got to realize, how does insurance work? You buy it, then you use it, right? If you have insurance for your car, you pay your premium, and then you got insurance for the next month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, whatever it is, year, whatever duration you bought, right? So because you own it and you're going to use it, it's an asset. Once we use it, so let's just say we buy our insurance for 4 months, and it's done with month 1, then after month 1, we record the expense of the insurance. But we're not there yet. Does that make sense? Okay. So asset for insurance, asset for cash. Going to debit prepaid insurance because prepaid insurance is going up. Assets sit on the left-hand side of the accounting equation. Since they sit on the left-hand side of the accounting equation, we show an increase in assets with a debit. Cash is going down. We're yelling timber. We're going to also credit cash because that's how you decrease an asset. Now, here's the mistake that kids make. Here's the mistake. And don't do this. I'm telling you right now, don't make this mistake. You need to go left to right. You need to go left to right. Do not bulk fill. So many students like to sit here and they like to go 6, 7, 8, 12, and then they like to go prepaid insurance, supplies, accounts payable. And then they like to go C3, M1, right? They like to go straight down. Don't. Yes. Is it more efficient? Is it more effective? Yes and yes. I don't disagree with that statement. Will you get more turned around and messed up if you do that? Absolutely. Absolutely you will. You need to work one transaction at a time, left to right, period. Okay? One transaction at a time, left to right. Are you following me? Don't fall into the trap, because if you don't do it, if you don't go left to right, and if you just go through and you bulk fill like I talked about, where you're coming down here, you will miss something. You will miss a step. Your debits won't equal your credits, and when you get to lesson 3, 4, it will come through and you'll see where your error comes through. Guarantee it. And then you're gonna have, and if it's big enough of an error, and if it happened multiple times, you might be at that really bad spot where you have to start over. Okay? Trust me when I say it. Don't go straight down, go left to right, okay? Make sense? So, February 6th is my transaction. My prepaid insurance is my account title that describes my general debit. Remember this, where's my pointer option, where's my pen? Okay, this $300 is described by here. Okay, that's key. If I have an item in my general debit and credit column, I need to have a description for it. Now, coming up today, we're going to show you what happens when we don't have an item in our general debit and credit column, what to do. That's an easy little trick. But again, if I have something here, I need to have a description over here for it. Over here, when I go here for my next one, right, I go for my cash credit, guess what? That's described here because it has cash credit 300. That column total describes it. Does that make sense? Otherwise, if I don't have anything that's account title, this just says I have a debit of 300. I don't even know what account it is for. It's kind of like when your parents ask you, oh, what are you hungry for? Food. Oh, that's cute. That narrows it down. Wow, we got a debit for 300. To what? I don't know, just a debit. Okay, and then you're like, oh, great. So make sure that that's there. So now so I'm gonna go here. Okay. So now let's go to our next one. Bought supplies on account. This is the tricky one in this lesson. Because if you look at this transaction, circle the nouns, underline the verbs, right? My nouns are gonna be supplies and on account, correct? Bought is gonna be my verb. That's my action, okay? So I know what are my two accounts gonna be. What are my two accounts gonna be? Supplies and accounts payable. 100% correct. Why? You're right, it is accounts payable, but why? Because we are doing what? Because we're buying, right? If we buy and pay on account, it's accounts payable. If we sell and receive on account, it's accounts receivable. So we bought here. So my two different accounts are going to be supplies and accounts payable. My supplies are going up, and it stays there. Up, down, up, down. Gotta have some rap reference. I don't know. It's terrible. They're terrible, but you know what? Maybe you remember it. But since they're going up, I'm going to debit it. My accounts payable are going up, and it stays there with a credit because it sits on the right-hand side of the accounting equation, correct? Now, this situation is unique, and here's why it's unique. It's unique because did I sell anything in this transaction? No. Did I receive cash in this transaction? No. Did I pay cash in this transaction? Does it say anywhere in this transaction paid cash? No, it doesn't. I didn't pay. I will pay cash later. So because I didn't pay cash, I'm not using any special amount column. So I need to basically use two general debits and credit columns. Now, mistake number one that a lot of students like to do is they like to put their numbers here. They like to put them all in the same line. Right? So let's just hypothetically say we go here and we do my supplies and I put my two numbers up here in the top here. Well, if I put that 1030 in the debit and the credit on the same line too, in a sense that's saying I bought and I returned supplies all in the same transaction. Oh, cute, you're window shopping. Right? That's kind of what you're doing. Here's the tip. Because we're using M1, okay? Because we're using M1, oops, nope. There we go. Because we're using M1 and it's a memorandum, that's our source document. But here's your little cheat, right? We have a lot of little cheats and indicators, correct? If we see C, we're going to use cash payments. If we use cash credit. If we see R, it's cash receipts. Coming up, if you see S or T, that's going to be sales. Okay, we'll give you a little, here's my little cheat. You're not going to see this in any books, but to me it helps me. M1 is for memorandum. M also means multiple. You're going to need to use multiple lines. Okay, so we're going to use our multiple lines. So notice we have used multiple lines. Multiple lines also goes to my general debit and credit. Like I said, I put there. Now, two things on this. Number one, you only need to put 7 once because this is the same transaction. You only need to put M1 once. That is the same transaction. The other mistake students make is they'll do this and then they'll go over to cash credit and put something in there. Look, we're not using the special amount columns. Leave them blank. Okay? Does this help? Questions on this one? This, like I said, is the trickier of the two. This gives people problems. And again, the other part that goes with it is, if I were to add, let's say, 1030 to that cash credit column, well, do my debits equal my credits? No, because my credits would be 2060 and my debits would be 1030, right? I need to, and again, does it say anywhere in this transaction sales, performed services, sold? Does it say anywhere in this transaction received? Does it say anywhere that's paid cash? No, so we're not going to use them. Students feel like they have to use those every transaction. No, we only use them if we need to use them. Make sense? Okay, so. Okay, so now we go on. Paid cash on account, again, should be, we're back here again. These should feel pretty comfortable for you, correct? They're no different than the previous ones. We're just using different things. And again, why is it accounts payable? Because we paid cash on account. If we buy or pay, it's accounts payable. If we sell or receive, it's accounts receivable, right? Okay, are we good on this? Yeah, okay. And I'm going to skip these because that's part of the other lesson. Okay, we talked about finding the errors. Again, I'm going to skip kind of through these. Make sure that you're, like if you look at this one, it says R1. But yet we're in cash credit. Do my debits equal my credits here? No, I'm at 30,000 for my credits and 0 for my debits. The last time I checked, debits don't equal credits, correct? 30,000 does not equal 0. But yet 15,000 does equal 15,000, right? It's been a while since I've been in math, but I believe that still holds true. Okay. This one, paid cash for supplies. The 4th looks good. The 5th, we don't need that date, right? We're not in March, we're in February. We don't need that. Okay. Also, look at here. I got a general, my supplies are credit and my cash is debit. If I read that February 5th transaction back loosely, looking at the journal, loosely translated, I received cash and returned supplies. Is that what that's saying? No. I need to pay cash and receive and buy and get supplies. Okay? Paid cash for insurance. Let's use our regular one. 99% of the time, you're not writing cash in here. You don't write cash or sales in here 95% of the time. There is a situation or two called closing and correcting that you would write it into. 95% of the time, you're not going to. So don't get into the habit of writing. If you think that you need to write sales or cash in the account title, 95% of the time, you're wrong. Because number one, cash, we already have a cash, debit, and credit column. Sales, the only time you'll write sales in there is when we're closing or correcting. Okay, and we'll get into that a little bit later. So there's that. Okay, I'm gonna make sure we have the correct, right? This is, make sure you have the correct, not all Ali's supplies, but Scott's supplies. Make sure it's correct there. And again, we're good there. Okay, so I'm gonna go through to 3. So we're coming here to 3.3. Any questions on that? Does that help? Okay, again, that M1 is what really gives students a hard time. Remember, M is memorandum. M does mean multiple lines. M is memorandum, N gives multiple lines, okay? So with that, let's kind of keep going here. Again, paid cash for rent, going to 3.3. 3.3 talks about what happens when we start receiving cash. So basically, if you think about 3.1 and 3.2, we've really kind of just all focused over here, haven't we? 3.1 and 3.2, we've kind of focused on this special amount column, correct? So now what happens when we now start selling stuff? Because really, up until now, we haven't sold anything, have we, in these transactions for this chapter? So how do you record a transaction when you start selling stuff? Well, let's take a look. Paid cash for rent. This should be a review, right? What are my nouns and verbs? Shout them out. What are my nouns and verbs? What's one of my nouns in this one? Eduardo, what's one of my nouns? Cash. Okay, yep, cash is one of them. What's another one of my nouns? Rent. Very good, right? What's my verb? What's the action? Paid, right? I'm paying on here, correct? Okay, so I'm paying on here. So what my 2 accounts that I'm going to use are what? Cash and rent expense. Why is it an expense? Because it's used to operate the business. How do I run a business if I don't have a building? Right? Now, does every business have a rent expense? No. You could be running a business out of your parents' basement, and if they're not charging you rent, you wouldn't have a rent expense. And that's fine. That's totally cool. But again, cash is an asset, rent expense is an owner's equity. Rent expense decreases the worth of the business, right? It decreases the owner's equity worth. So I'm going to debit that. I'm going to credit cash. Again, there's my little C, right? Here's my little indicator. Guys, I'm telling you, this will save you because you can get half of it right. You see C6, you're going, okay, I know what's going to happen here. That's going to go right there. Right? C, cash, credit. Wow, 3 C's. Hey, you're 75% of the way there. We got this figured out. Okay, so then now I bring it to the journal. Again, please, 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 please do yourself a favor. Left to right. Left to right. Don't go bulk fill. I can't tell you the number of times I see students that'll go 12, 13, 14, 15, 15, 18. And then go the account title, and then go the source. No, don't. Please, that's my biggest PSA, right? No distracted driving and no bulk filling for these transactions. I get it. The bulk filling is more efficient and effective. Can't stress it enough. If you do bulk fill, I guarantee you with almost 95% certainty, you will get to a point in an accounting project or a worksheet or whatever, and you're going to ultimately have to start over because you'll miss something. And you might not catch it right now. You'll catch it when we get to lesson 3.4 or 3.5 when we're proving and ruling. And then you're like, oh God, I don't even know where my mess is. You've got to start over. Okay? Please, please, please. My biggest PSA. Okay, so we put the date. Again, I'm putting Feb on there because it's the first transaction on this journal page. Rent expenses, explaining my general debit. C6 is my doc number. Cash credit, there's my C, and we're good there. Right? Okay. So, continuing on. Now, here's the new, this is the two new ones. Everything else is kind of a review. Received cash from sales. Tell me the nouns. What are the nouns and what are the verbs? What are my nouns in this transaction? Cash and sales, right? Okay, so we have cash and sales. Cash is what type of an account? Cash is what type of an account? Cash is what type of an account? Asset, liabilities, owner's equity. Asset, right? Cash is an asset. Sales is what type of an account? It's on that far right side. Does it make us worth more as a business? Yeah, so since it makes us worth more as a business, it is an owner's equity. Owner's equity. Cash is the asset, right? Okay, cash is going up, correct? Because if we receive cash, cash goes up and the hands stay there, up, down, up, down. Here we go, right? Okay, so if I'm going to increase cash, instead of saying increase cash, I'm going to say paid cash, credit cash. Debit cash, received cash, gave it away. Debit cash, get used to that saying. Sales. Sales is my 95% rule. Think about this. Guys, look right here. Wait, here, simple trick. Simple trick. What does this column say? What does that column say? Sales what? So 99% of the time, unless I'm correcting or closing, what is sales going to be? It has its own column that's just sales credit. It tells you the answer right there. You know it's sales, which we do because it says sales in there. Ta-da! Want your other little tidbit? Okay, it says sales, so it goes there. I'll show you another trick in there. What's a T besides drama? Not that tea. Not green tea, not matcha. What does T13 mean? It's called transaction tape. What's transaction tape? Anyone have a job? Tape. Do they run Z reports at night? Do they run a register report or a Z report or all that stuff? Do they run that at night and you got to balance your drawer? That's T. That's what that is. Okay? I guess it depends on what register you use, Tommy. So we're good there. But, okay, so now I'm going to credit it. Now think about this here. So when you look at this transaction, am I using, what two accounts? I'm using cash and sales, right? I'm going to debit cash and I'm going to credit sales. Am I going to use a general debit or credit column item? In other words, am I going to use either one of these? Am I using either one of those? No, I'm not, am I? So how many of you, so the best way to kind of explain this, so I'm not going to be using these, but rather I'm going to be using two special amount columns, aren't I? So how many of you have ever filled out a resume? Some DECA members in here know that I get after you and I tell you when you have a spot that you have nothing to put in there, but you need to recognize it, what do? You don't put an X on it, you put, remember your two little dashes? You could do NA, I feel 2 dashes makes it look cleaner, okay? But again, you can't just leave it blank. Well, the same goes true in accounting. Remember, our account title goes and describes what we're using our general debit. Well, we don't have any general debit. So what we have to do is we have to say, okay, you know what? We know we're not using it. We recognize it because everything you need to know is in our special amount column. So I'm going to put a check mark. In your accounting worksheets, it will show up as a V because just Google Sheets and check marks don't play well in the same sandbox. It's just the way it works, okay? So we have to put a check mark there. We put our source document, which is T, and I put a check mark and post reference. I can explain to you right now what that check mark and post reference means. It really won't make any sense until next chapter. Just trust me that that needs to go there, okay? When we get to posting, that V will make more sense. Right now, if I tried to explain it to you, it'll confuse the daylights out of you even more. Okay, just know it has to be there. Now, remember I like to give little indicators and tips, right? C is cash credit, R is cash receipts, M is multiple lines, T is 2 check marks. Won't find that in any book. But boy, it lines up really nicely, doesn't it? T means 2 check marks. T means 2 special amount columns. Boom. Right? Everything you need to know and more is in the transaction. Everything you need to know and more is in the transaction. So I'm going to put 2 check marks in there, represented by V's. And then I'm going to finish the transaction with my debit and credit. Now, here's where people screw up. For whatever reason, students think that since these two 1500s are next to each other in the columns, they think that they're not debits and credits. They are. They totally are, because we have, but again, they'll put it over here, and now we got a situation where my credits equal 30,000. Or I'm sorry, 3,000, and my debit equals 0. Remember, debits equal credits. 1,500, 1,500 equals 1,500, right? Does that make sense? That's the hardest part of this whole unit right there. Is that tricky? Remember, T means 2 check marks. T means 2 special amount columns. Easy. Yes? Feeling good about this? Yes? Okay. So then if we look at our next transaction here, sold services on account, what are my verbs? Not verbs. What are my nouns? Services and on account, right? What are my verbs? Sold. Sold is past tense for what? What's present tense of sold? Sell, which means we did what in this transaction? Sales, right? You ready for my another little trick for you? There's all these little tricks that make it a heck of a lot easier. If you can understand the source document, you can figure out 70 to 80% of these and get half of them right immediately, just by understanding the source document. Sales starts with what letter? S. Huh. Weird how this works here. Remember, our source documents kind of tell us the story. Here's S. Oh, look at that. Look at how that works. Right? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Just put the pieces of the puzzle together and you got it. Now, if you don't know anything else that's going on in this class, you know the credit, you just got to figure out the debit. And you know the debit amount, you just don't know the account title. Oh, but wait. Look at the top of the screen. Is there an account title up there for you to pick from in a list? Yeah. Now, my Google Sheets, are they a lot more complicated and have a lot extra stuff in there? Yep. But that's because I want you to learn it. That's me being evil. I stay up at night, like, how can I torment? No, okay. I don't stay up. I wake up early. Anyway, but again, this is where we're going. Questions on this? Does that make sense? So, my two accounts here are sales and accounts receivable. Why is it accounts receivable? Well, if we bought and paid, it's accounts payable. If we sell and receive, it's accounts receivable. Getting sick of me, right? I'm like a broken record up here. Hopefully it's clicking, okay? Sales, 95% of the time is going to be what? A debit or a credit? Credit. Accounts receivable is an asset. The asset is going up. Assets sit on the left-hand side of the account equation. We say an increase in an asset, we are going to do what to accounts receivable? Debit it. We're increasing it because we're debiting it because we're increasing it because it sits on that left-hand side. So again, I'm going to debit accounts receivable, credit sales. Off we go. How we doing? And then we go through here. And that's it. Questions? You want me to go through those last three? We've used them. Those transactions are all C. Well, actually, the next two are C, so we're going to use what? If it's C, C7, C8, cash credit, right? That column's going to get used. If we're R, we're receiving cash, what column's going to get used? Right? I mean, literally, this source document helps you tremendously. C7, 2. Right, R2, D2, do, and the fancy sound effects. Okay? You have half of it done, and you haven't even used your T accounts, have you? Yeah, it's that easy. Right? It's just find the puzzle piece, right? It's kind of like the puzzle. You got the corners, now you got to figure out the middle. Okay. That's all it is. So if we go through it real quick, I'll just go here, paid cash for telephone bill. Okay. My telephone bill is a utilities expense. Why is it an expense? Because I need it to operate my business. So it's a cost of doing business. It's a cost account. It's an expense. Cash is going down, right? We're yelling timber. So we're going to credit cash and we're going to debit the expense. Now again, if you've noticed, what's a commonality with every expense up until now? 95% of the time, expenses, we are going to be doing what to them? Debiting. Correct? There is the 5% when we're correcting or closing. That's coming. But 95% of the time, you can pretty much, when it says we're recording an expense, we're debiting it. So when you see expense, you go to debit. I'll show you a trick here in a second. I think that I show you. So anyway, so I go ahead and enter it. Simple as can be, right? Continuing on, paid cash for owner for personal use. Okay, so paid cash. What's my other account here in this one? Paid cash to owner for personal use. What's my other account in this one? Owner what? We see the word owner. We know it's one of two things, right? It's owner blank or owner blank. Owner capital or owner drawing. So the owner is withdrawing money out of the business because he's going to go to Vegas. He's going to put all the money on the Packers to win the Super Bowl. The Vikings? I don't know. I think he's got to get his money back somehow. Okay, bad joke. What's that?
I remember sleeping on it just
I love your optimism. I absolutely love. Hey, there's still a chance. It's like 3, but yay, more like 1 in a million. So you're saying there's a chance, right? That's all they're saying. Okay. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see what happens tonight with Green Bay and Atlanta too. That'll be a good game. I think that'll be a really good game. So, what's that? There you go, right? Hey, why not? I mean, The Wolves got the number 1. Wild got a 9. Let's just keep the streak alive. Anyway, so it's just Minnesota, right? We're going to be we're the Cleveland of the West. Sorry, bad joke. All right. How many number 1 picks does Cleveland have and still can't win? But we're just going to go there.
They did good yesterday.
Okay, first time.
They had a really good game.
Yeah, that's good. So anyway, so we move on here. Paid cash to owner for personal use. Is it owner's capital or owner's drawing? He's withdrawing money out of the business, so it's owner's drawing. Very good. So we're good there. Okay. Again, not really spending a lot of time on this because we've gone through this transaction quite a bit, right? Questions on that one? Okay, we go here. Received cash on account. Again, why is it accounts receivable? Because we are receiving cash. Think of us, can you tell me a business situation where you would have an accounts payable and be receiving cash? That just doesn't make sense, right? Here, I owe you money, but you're just going to give me money because. That doesn't make sense. I mean, if that's what you want to do, I'll gladly do business with you. I'll gladly owe you $500, and if you want to pay me $1,000, cool. That doesn't really make sense, though. Goal is profit. I don't think you get to profit very quick there. Okay. Yeah. Questions? That's 3-3. Okay. Real quick, prepare and source documents for each transaction is an application of which accounting concept? Is it business entity, unit measurement, objective evidence, or going concern? How do we know we score a touchdown? Stupid question. How do we know we score a touchdown? And why does the referee raise the hands and the hands stay up and they stay there, up, down, up, down? Why do the refs do that? How do they know when to raise their hands? The ball crosses the line. That's objective evidence. How do we know we received cash? We have a receipt. Objective evidence. How do we know we paid cash? We have a check stub. Objective evidence, right? Okay, so it's objective evidence. Next one is a business form ordering a bank to pay cash from a bank account is it check, memorandum, receipt, or all the above? It's a check, right? In a sense, when you write a check, you're asking your financial institution to transfer money from yours to somebody else's. It's the Pony Express version of Venmo. Is really what checks are. Greatest invention ever. All that peer-to-peer payment. On each journal page, the year is written for the first entry, only for the first entry. On the first line of each or none of the above. The year is written when? Only for the first entry. Right? Okay. So with that, yeah, I'm gonna stop there. Do you guys have any questions? Are we feeling pretty good about this? Yes? Okay, so let's work on 3-1, 3-2, 3-3. I think today is 3-3, right? Tomorrow's 3-4, okay? 3-4 is pretty simple, but I want to give you time to work on 3-3 and get that done. And if there's no questions, those of you that are online, I'm going to end the stream now.